If there was a way to inject billions of dollars into the New Zealand economy, have engaged and motivated staff...
Me being a bit of a politician, but really important.
Okay.
If we can increase female work participation by 50% by 2030, that's $20 to $40 billion increase in New Zealand's GDP. That's 9% increase in GDP. So it's not a small amount.
Would you want to include that in your business? So this is talking about something I never thought of personally because I never had kids, but apparently there's a whole lot of parents out there that would love to work.
You know, we're talking a lot about sustainability now, right? But that also should include sustainable employment, because we know that it's a really interesting time to be working. There's an $80 trillion global skills shortage, and we're not having as many kids these days, and so the population is in decline.
But it's hard to work because you got kids and you have responsibilities and kids get sick and then you got to go to school and all that sort of stuff.
If you can't be fully flexible, you can't do remote. We've got remote as well, we've got school hours, but if you can't do those, you can do something that is really easy where you can do flexi start and end times. So 3 o'clock comes around, you're not like, oh, I need to pick up my kid, let me just sneak out. I'm going to go and pick up my daughter from daycare or school. I will continue the rest of my work in my own time in the evening.
This highlights how we could improve a society, how we could have a better running economy, and how can you have happy staff. I mean, it makes sense. So I have no idea where this is going to go.
Good.
Yeah. So... unconscious biases.
Yeah.
Let's set the scene with you,
Yeah,
what you're doing.
yeah, okay.
What are you doing at the moment? Do your politician speech.
My politician speech. So my name's Mela. And
Hey, Mela.
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm a mum and a business owner. I run a little, not so little. Can I scratch that?
You can say it's how long?
It's massive.
Yeah, how many employees?
No, there's only 6 of us.
What do you mean only 6? Most, 90% of businesses fail?
That they do. And it's not an easy business. We are a social enterprise, and we are a job site connecting parents and caregivers with flexible work opportunities across the country.
Bomb.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a short, sweet summary of what we do.
Yeah, I'm just trying not to get you in that fucking, aura of a politician. so let's, where were you born? Let's go there. Where are you from?
Look,
And you don't have to worry about talking in the mic. Just pretend you're talking. You can lean back. You can talk too much.
Okay, amazing. Well, look, I'm actually an interesting one. I'm an Albanian refugee.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and so...
Do you know Ilma?
I do!
Imagine if you did. Oh, you did?
I do.
Yeah, we worked together. I was, I guess, training her as a financial advisor. Yeah.
I do know, because there's only like a small amount.
Yeah, she's legend.
Yeah. So
She's got a vision to go back to Albania and help them with their money situation. She set up a kiwis over there.
Oh, that would be helpful. They're really, it's an interesting country. But yeah, I was born there, and I left when I was 7, obviously because there was a bit of a war going on.
Yeah, what is that like? You said refugee. I was like, Albania.
There was a war back then. You probably heard of. We had a civil war.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not very geographically aware.
Oh well, look, what happened? Very, very small summary of what happened was there was this pyramid scheme that went wrong, and stole a lot of money from a lot of poor people.
Oof.
And it kind of resulted in political upturning and civil war.
Jesus. So, did you sort of see anything? How old were you when that was going down?
I was 7, and look, I didn't grow up in I had the best childhood.
Jesus, yeah.
But
we can hit stuff. It's fine.
but it was, I saw it with pink rosy glasses. But weird things happened. They were kidnapping kids at the time. I actually remember being approached to be. I remember this Mercedes tinted out windows when I was 6 years old, buying ice cream with my cousin, kind of rolling up and being like, "We'll buy you ice cream if you get in the car." And my cousin and I, at the time had been taught that if that ever happened, you run home.
Mm.
And so we ran home and thank goodness we were taught better. But
Yeah, on that, this is completely random tangent.
yeah.
So it's probably hectic. So I was watching a psychologist and he was talking about to prepare your child from that, to make sure they're protected. You want them to not appear as victims, to appear confident.
Yep.
So how do you navigate between, stranger danger, but also helping develop your kids into people that don't get social anxiety or whatever?
That's a really good question, and I wish I knew the answer.
Just
Does anyone here know the answer to that?
Yeah, leave a comment in the description.
Because it would be good to know. Because I think my parents did the best they could, and they just said, no, say no, and be confident about it, and run away. And
Well, I mean, you're not dead, so
I'm alive.
Yeah.
Just.
wow.
Yeah, but that's what I teach my kids. Now I'm like, different setting, but I do say, we don't try and educate. I think maybe that's a flow-on effect of being a refugee, but yeah.
Yeah, no, valid. Okay, so war, almost had some ice cream, and then you moved. Where did you go?
We moved to New Zealand.
Straight here as refugees.
Yeah. Not from the ice cream shop. There was a break in between. We actually saw a psychic in between that.
You saw a psychic?
Not me at age 7. My mother did, yeah.
Wow, she one of those. She got crystals and Reikis and stuff?
No, she's an economist. She's like badass.
Confused. Yeah, okay, so she's badass economist that went to a fortune teller.
Yeah, because Albanians are quite spiritual like that.
Okay.
And I remember them telling my mother that you'd be moving to a foreign land and that she'd have a son, which we had my brother 10 years later. But they predicted the year and just really weird things. So,
wow.
Anyways.
Any other predictions that are about to happen? Or
No, I wish they'd said you're going to win lotto. But
yeah, that would be helpful. There's a guy, I think, Darren Brown. I think he sent out 217,000 letters or something predicting what horses will win. But he wrote a different prediction on each. So someone got it and got 7 from 7. I always wonder that it's like if you put out enough predictions.
Maybe. And they read things through coffee cups. Have you had your coffee cup read?
Oh, what does it tell you?
Oh no, that's not the right It's not ideal. That thing that looks like an instant. It's not.
Yeah, it looks gross, to be fair. And it's kind of cold.
I can tell you your future if you would like.
Yeah. What would be your prediction? Should we roll it out? Should we just what do you think your future will be like?
Okay. Ideally, politician means I want to drive social change that impacts the wider community. And I think maybe my upbringing had something to do with it, having come from war into this country. I was then raised by my father because my mother was working a lot.
Okay.
And, it was hard for them. And there wasn't flexibility back then, And I remember being left alone at a young age because they had to work. And I think fast forward to today, and now that I've got my own family, I just want to be able to create a future where everyone can thrive, including workplaces, but also, my kids, their families.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely the reason, I suppose.
What party? You got? No, just kidding.
What party?
No.
No, can't tell you that.
Yeah, interesting. So you want to? So my goal, just to talk about me instead of you, is to give every person the opportunity to live a fulfilling life. But I can't imagine being a politician is the way to do it. You know what I mean? In theory, they're like, oh, you can have more change. But do you think that's if you could change anything, and you had complete power, and how would you change things? What would you change?
This is not a Miss Universe answer, when I'm and I would. So if I had a crystal ball, I legit would educate. And I would start with the senior leadership team and every organisation around their impact. Okay. And also sort of some of their policies. And I'd start by saying that if you're not offering part-time employment, you're missing out on 20% of the job market. So it's a huge amount, and that's where the diversity live. And so if you're saying that you're providing equal opportunities, that's a really great place to start, looking internally to look at how you are being a socially corporate. I always get that wrong. You're being a good person.
Yeah, just do it. Don't worry about the words.
No, I know the words. But it's
crap.
Exactly, but because I'm on,
Oh, you're on it. You're on some committee or something?
Oh, no.
No. Okay.
Not like a proper one, obviously an internal one that we're trying to drive change. But I think that's really important to me. Is that if I had one magic outcome, it would be to educate, because then if you understand your impact, you understand your privilege sometimes, you can then change things.
Boom. So you're talking to the most privileged individual, a white man. Surrounded by art. Yeah. Should we unpack it? No.
I like that you've got passion. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I whatever works is my thing. Like, it's like, it seems stupid to me. On one hand, you've got, not you, don't worry. You might be stupid. We don't know yet, but you don't seem stupid. Like, so. So there's like, you know how like people don't hire older people?
Yeah.
That's stupid. Like, you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
stupid. You're right.
An experienced person knows what they're doing and they respect the opportunity.
But do you know why they don't do that? Because a lot of the time, what I'm learning, and of course I'm not in that position because that doesn't impact, that's not a barrier for us or an unconscious bias for us. But the feedback that I get is that there is unconscious bias in recruitment, especially with recruitment companies.
Oh, some of it's conscious.
Some of it.
I've been talking to HR, brother.
No, some of it is conscious. And, and I've had a lot of people actually come through to us saying that I've got 37 years of experience, but I can't get a job now that I've been made redundant because people go, oh, you're, close to 60. And I'm like, just because someone's close to 60 or 50 doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean that they've got a wealth of experience that would be so suitable, so amazing for your organization. But it's this bias that we're trying to educate employers on, and the system is flawed, right? Like if you're going to a recruitment company, especially because they are motivated by the percentage that they can get from that hire,
I can see it whirring in your head not
like,
to
what
say
do you
something
say?
fucked up.
But it's the truth,
Yeah. Well, I believe you. So, like, I think of it as well as like, imagine if I had mother or father, they're part-time and they got to go do the kids stuff. I don't have kids, I don't know how it works, but I imagine there's things that needs to be done.
Yes.
And you don't know when it's going to need to be done and someone's sick or whatever and there's the school thing and a rehearsal. But like they're motivated, they work around it, they're good people and no one wants them. Like, isn't that perfect? Isn't that an ideal? A lot of people should want them, but...
Well, that's exactly it. Like, people are saying, like, we need to see more women in tech, more women in STEM. And you're like, there's no problems with women getting into any of those sectors. The problem is that when they get in there, then they fall out. And there's a huge women, there's far more women in higher education. If you look at the statistics around who's going to university, that's not where the biggest issue lies. It's then once they become parents. And then you see this massive drop-off. You've got a huge percentage of women underemployed and unemployed a decade after their first child. And I became one of those statistics myself. Like, what? How? But that's what happens if you decide that you want to start a family. It's just like you end up being penalized because you want reduced hours. But if we unpack those, I guess, those myths or biases around why that is, I think it would really... to give you the stats around this, and this is me being a bit of a politician, but really important.
Okay.
If we can increase female work participation by 50% by 2030, that's $20 to $40 billion increase in New Zealand's GDP. That's 9% increase in GDP. So it's not a small amount. And how do you do that? It's family-friendly employment. And it's not just a New Zealand issue. It's actually now part of the UN Sustainable Goals. Family-friendly employment is just because it's improving gender equity, improving poverty, improving productivity. Because if you could work more flexibly, how much happier are you? Not having to compromise, whether you be a woman or a man, on having a family and going to those things that are important to you whilst also being productive. I think it just lends itself for a far better world. And ultimately, it's part of this, we're talking a lot about sustainability now, right? But that also should include sustainable employment, because we know that it's a really interesting time to be working. There's an $80 trillion global skills shortage, and we're not having as many kids these days. And so the population is in decline.
Oh, you're going down that route.
I'm not too deep, because I know, but just a little bit.
We are in population decline, and we can't afford the old people.
Yes.
as a financial advisor.
Exactly, and that's the reality. I'm not some sort of cult leader trying to tell you something that isn't fact. It's all fact. It's all, if you Google it, if you look at actually credible sources, just as an FYI, do not just Google it. Go to Stats NZ. Go to other.
Urban Dictionary is where I get all my answers.
Oh, yep.
Do you know Urban Dictionary?
I don't use it as frequently. Not gonna lie, I'm more like a McKinsey study or a Deloitte workplace.
Yeah.
But have a good look. Even Urban Dictionary. Educate yourself.
Learn some new words. Yeah, no. Okay, so you said something interesting in the STEM cell. It's like the STEM subjects. I never know how to say it. But I didn't think many, I don't know the data, but I just thought women are more interested in people and men are more interested in things on average with, psychology. That's not to say all women like that. Yeah. So less of them do the sciences.
Well, yes and no. I think they a little bit less, but not enough to figure it to explain the huge gap.
Okay.
So yes, but not enough to explain the gap that there is now in some sectors. Okay. And so that then there must be another, reason.
What if they don't like the job? Like I agree with you, the family thing.
Yeah.
I'm with you. That makes sense. Yeah. What if they do it and they're like, oh, this is shit?
Well, look, so that is an interesting point because we are getting when you and I, or maybe not you, I may be making an assumption, but back in the day, I used to think that my career was going to be linear. I really did. I thought I'd finished university, I'd get my, marketing executive job, and then get into, senior marketing executive, and then back through, and progress
CEO.
into a CEO, right?
Wow, watch out.
Yeah, exactly. But I think now that I'm in my 30s with my family, and I've worked in leadership for a good 10 years. I can tell you now that it's not how it works. Careers, life, they're not linear. And we're seeing that a lot, actually. And that we kind of still hire for linear careers, but it's not to say that that's what happens in real life. And I think we need to adjust our expectations accordingly. And you're allowed to get into a career and then want to change something else. The problem is that the mechanism for change isn't there. Like, we've got a lot of women especially who, for example, are teachers in our community that want to no longer be teachers. We won't get into why. Obviously that's its own issue, but the transition from teaching to something else is not as easy as it should be, considering that they have such phenomenal transferable skills. The transitional workforce doesn't have a home, which is where we want to be. We want to be the home of, you got Seek and Trade Me, and they're just standard job boards. We're a community, and we talk a lot about transitional workforce, but also transitional workforce in the sense that we know that 105,000, particularly women, are going to need new jobs in the next 5 to 10 years because thanks a lot, Open Chat GPT and all these other amazing, cool shit that's happening in the world.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you keep going. It seems like you're on the tail end of something.
Yeah, well, no, so I suppose there's multiple issues. But yeah, one is around transitional occupations. There is no pathway. And it's not an easy thing to get into unless you restudy. But you shouldn't have to restudy for everything because you've got these amazing transferable skills. Like teaching, you can get into L&D, learning and development, not to use any acronyms for anyone listening, but you can get into coaching, you can get into a variety of other things that don't then need you to go and study for 4 years because you can't afford to do that, most likely.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've never read someone's CV, partly because I don't like reading. But I'm always just like, why? Like, the thing I look to hire someone on is like vision. Yeah. So can our vision achieve theirs, values, and are they passionate about what we do, and can they do it? Yeah. If some teacher comes in and they've never been whatever we need them to be, I don't know, let's say they're a leadership role. Yeah. You see if they can do it. Like, who cares if they've, like, it is important that you've done it a little bit, but it's interesting that you highlighted the transitioning component because you think, you take time out to raise a family and then you're trying to transition, but then you can't afford to do the study, and then the study's a waste of time because it doesn't get your job anyways. It's not a waste of time. Some of them are important.
Yeah. If you're a medical professional, don't listen to this.
Yeah.
You need to study. Just a disclaimer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's true. It's like a lot of I ask people, hey, what are you using your degree for? And they're like, oh, I'd never used it in my life. What did you learn? Oh, how to do something I don't enjoy.
It's not wrong. I have an economics degree. And I'm like, cool. Thanks. And I loved economics, but like...
Mum's proud?
Mum's proud.
Did it take a while for you to win her over? Like, hey, I'm not going to do what you wanted me to do, and I'm going to start a business even though, you were an economist.
Oh, I think, like, the weird thing is that I did far better at economics than I did in marketing, but ended up being in marketing. So that was, like, a bittersweet for her. She's like, oh, cool, you found the other one. Yeah. But, no, my mum's, like, so supportive, and both my parents are, like, I've grown up in non-traditional roles, even though I came from a really traditional background where they're, like, I'll look after the kids. You go and do what you need to do to, be part of another podcast or be in front of a TV audience or whatever. And that's really cool that they're like, supportive. And not all the family is supportive. My husband is, but like they're still.
Who do you need to win over? Who's the hardest to win over?
My mother-in-law.
Oh, your mother-in-law? Shout out. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Can we cut this out?
Yeah,
No, I love her. I do love her.
Who's the hardest to win over in your family?
My mother-in-law.
Oh, it is. It's her. Oh, Jesus.
No, she's so good. She's so good. But it's hard because there are these like pre-notions of like, your job is to raise the kids. And
what's it like? Can you raise kids and do other stuff? I don't actually know. Because people say it's the hardest job in the world. I feel like that's cap, but I'll let you know.
I promise you, like I have had my fair share of hard jobs.
Yeah.
Hardest job in the world. Like.
Is it?
Hardest job in the world. Like. I've just come to a random podcast. I was at a panel event the other week, and I can tell you raising kids.
Yeah. Well, this is easy. But
it would like raise. I'm growing and scaling a business. Like,
yeah,
still easy in comparison. Like, hardest job in the whole world.
Why? Because sleep deprivation and undivided attention, or what makes it the hardest? Because it's a big call. Like roofing's not fun.
I'm gonna say it is really hard because it changes you. Like in ways that you never thought. It's one of those things where I'm just not who I was in before and after.
Okay.
And I didn't expect that. And I think my husband didn't expect that. We didn't expect to just be like, still us, but also like not us in many ways. Like I don't have, like, I guess it's harder. I think I'd like to know what percentage of women out there or men out there that are.
We can make this whole episode about women. I
know.
I know you're trying to be inclusive. But.
No, but we have men in the platform, so it's not just for women. But I want to know how many parents or CEOs have carer responsibilities. That would be an interesting statistic for me. Because as one that is the CEO and also I'm, an active member of the family and so is my husband, I'd like to know kind of how they deal with it because it is so hard, and it's probably the reason you don't see it. You don't hear about it, really. And you don't see it because it doesn't exist. Or it does exist, but in very small numbers. Very hard.
Oh, I've Melanie Spencer would be one. Like,
is that the lady from...
Socialites.
Oh, yes.
Well, to be
fair...
I know,
yeah, I know her, yeah.
They do delegate. Yeah. There's someone helping, because it's
can't,
cooked.
Yeah.
Because I was sort of thinking in the future, I was like, I don't want to be a stay-at-home dad, but like if I had to, can I just like walk around with a kid? Would that work? Or is it like impossible because they'll grab something and electrocute themselves? Or
well, it depends on what kid you have.
You put them here while we're talking?
You couldn't because it's glass. And like, depends
so
on how much you like your artwork.
I don't give a fuck. Yeah, like, if as long as they're safe. Like, is it possible just to take a kid to work and you have them on a backpack or something and you put them down places and
well,
do you need to talk to them all the time or
so they're really difficult, so it depends on like what your personal goals are as a parent. I suppose if you wanted to but it depends on your kid. Like I have one chill ass kid that's like I'm gonna do my thing with my trains, and then I got another kid that's like she can sense when I'm on the phone and will like ultimately be like, mummy, and you're like, just 1 second, mummy's just on the phone, and then she'll like run and go into the bathroom and then flood the toilet and like all sorts, and you're like,
Wow.
just on the phone, just 1 minute, honey. But that's nothing.
How do you navigate hating your child? Like, I know you're not meant to, but like there'll be moments where you just not feeling it.
There's moments that you are like, that is a hard day.
How do you navigate that? Like, because you need, what does Jordan Peterson say? You may or may not like him, but he's like, don't let your child do anything that would lead to you disliking them, because then you're, you know.
But how would you do that? Because you want your child to be your child, right? And
yeah, what's a balance?
I think, look, no one's going to like this answer.
Yeah, go on.
But I'm going to tell you that it's...
Tell your truth. This is what this
my
is about.
truth is that when you become a parent, you get real uncomfortable in the sense that it kind of highlights your own weaknesses more than anything else. Like, it really does. Like, it is such a slap in the face.
Okay.
Because you're suddenly having to care for this infant or toddler. Or I've got 2 toddlers.
Oh, God.
And you're like you're having a good time, but that's triggered me for some reason. You've just done something and it's like you've completely, I've cleaned for 4 hours and you've just made it messy again. And that's the hardest part, is that your flaws are right there all the time. And so you have to, that's the hardest. I think that's a really hard part of parenting, is like it just lays you bare, and things that wouldn't upset you usually, not usually, it's because you don't get pushed to that limit. If you've got a partner, you might argue, but you might not like everything about your partner, but it doesn't become an issue all the time, because
they got EQ.
Exactly. You have a toddler, 2 toddlers, and then a partner, and the dynamic is different because you've got children needing your attention all the time. They have to be fed 3 times a day.
That's mad.
I know, and loved, and...
Surely intermittent fasting or something.
No, definitely not.
I sound like I'm going to be an awful father with this. Glass tables and intermittent fasting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not for everybody. Not for everybody, but you learn, no one knows until, if I can put it into words, is that you don't understand it until
you're there.
And because I didn't. People told me, they're like, make sure you enjoy your naps and your sleep and your...
Oh, I couldn't do that, eh? Not being able to sleep.
Yeah.
I'll do all the nappies all day, but if I have to wake up and get less than 8, surely I can delegate that.
Well, that's what I thought, but now I'm like averaging 5.
Oh, that's fucked.
On a good day.
Yeah, no, I'll be... No.
You just have to really be really good with caffeine. Like, it's like on tap. I'm like, caffeine, thank you.
Jeez, what is that? Why are kids waking up when they should be sleeping? You know what I mean? Like, what's the evolutionary benefit of that?
That's a good question. Well, we've been trying to sleep train my daughter for like 3 years because she's 3. And
she
then
got tonsillitis? Because that's what I didn't sleep for 3 years.
That's exactly what she has. She's got sleep apnea, actually. So sleep apnea is like enlarged tonsils and adenoids. And so she physically couldn't sleep because...
Couldn't breathe.
I was like, why can't you sleep?
Oh, God.
Here are all the books that I've read. And then you feel like such a dick, don't you? Because you're like letting your kid cry, and then you're like, it wasn't you, it was me. Or the 10 million doctor visits that I've gone to that no one picked up.
Oh, God. Jesus. So is that what you mean by change? Is like there's nowhere to hide about your inadequacies as a person because you're getting triggered by this child just living their life? You
have nowhere to hide. So like... figuring out also why you're upset at something when you shouldn't be, like, or your partner and you have different, like, yes and no. It's like, you should always be on the same page. But like, he's like, yeah, she can just do that. And then I'm like, yeah, she can just do that, but in different things. And so you're like, oh, what? I don't think she should do that.
How do you navigate it? How do you have that chat where you're like, hey, this is how I want to be as a mother? He's like, hey, this is how I be a father. And then you navigate the, like, actually, I don't agree with that.
I think, yeah. We've been married for a long time now, and I think 5 years is a long time.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, you can't be that old. Like
5 years. We've been together for a long time, nearly a decade, over a decade. Anyways, but
have you been together for over a decade?
Yeah.
When did you meet?
a long time ago without
Okay,
revealing
we're not
my
doing
age.
calculations. Yeah, okay.
I look, much older than I am. I'm joking. Actually, only 21.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
Yeah.
Yes, you met. That's fucked up.
Very young.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with your partner, you just have to have a chat around what your expectations are, what you want to achieve, but also like, please also include your career in that, because it's important. Like, if you don't want to be missing out in terms of your career, because not that you are, but if that's what you choose, that's perfectly okay. But if you want to have a career, and it's having a chat with your partner around superannuation, because when you're not working, you're not getting super, and so there's a huge gap when you retire.
The KiwiSaver gap. Huh?
Yeah, there's a huge gap. Like, we're talking like $300,000. So having a chat with your partner about that, or if you do want to, like in my case, where I'm really, really love my job and I love to work and I also love being a parent, but both of us have full-time jobs, right? And so it's having really open discussions around, how do we balance this? How do you do that?
You just don't. You wing it. That's mostly what I hear from people, is like, we just do what we can. I'll go pick them up and then I'll work till 11.
That's exactly what you do, right? There's some tips and stuff. Not that I think, and you need to be giving people tips, because I don't think it's the people. I think it's the system that's flawed, Oof. I don't want to be being like, you're not doing it right. You are doing it right. It's just that it's hard because it's not perfectly aligned to support you in that sense, But I would say for us, it's like figuring out like the 4 Ds of like, do we delegate? Do we delete? Do we divide and conquer? Or, and I forgot what the other D is. I think the other one is...
I've never heard these before in my life.
Oh, yeah.
You're just saying words right now. Delete.
Well, so it's like...
Who are you deleting?
Or like if you've got a task, like it's more like a project management tactic, right?
Okay.
So if you've got a lot on your life, right, is figuring out, well, what's really important to you, because you can't do it all. It's really hard to do it all. It's communicating with your partner. If you're lucky to be able to split those duties, in terms of, I mean, lucky in that you're not, you're in that position, because some people are not. And some people are solo parents or have no support whatsoever in that sense,
So just on the making more family-friendly employment.
Yeah.
What do we do? What do we change? Because I don't believe in holiday pay. I'm just like, just pay them every week. You take whatever holidays, as long as we work together to solve the problem. Who cares? So
that's a really good point. So we talk about family-friendly employment as like the goal.
Yeah.
As the movement, family-friendly employment in New Zealand, right? That's who we are. We've heard of the 4-day work week.
Yes.
So we're another form of movement. I suppose the difference between the 4-day work week and family-friendly employment is that family-friendly employment is more attainable and quicker, because businesses are really complex, right? And so it's unlikely that everyone's going to be working 4 days a week. It's not a reality for a lot of businesses.
Oh, you're coming after the movement.
No, I'm not. I respect the movement. If you're listening to this, I respect, and I really think it's a great movement. I'm
Ours is better.
No.
Go on, see, Cash.
No, it's not about being better, because I think there's a place for both. But I think what we talk about is family-friendly employment, and that means that there's so many different ways to be family-friendly, and it is more attainable, and it's like eating the elephant one bite size at a time. You're not tackling it, okay, that's it, from Thursday we're all working 4 days. Instead, what you're saying is, how can I be a better employee and an employer? Like, how can I...
There's hectic music, by the way. You just keep rolling if anyone's listening. Your composure was on point.
That's a really important part. Like, you don't have to do a 4-day week, or you might want to, but you could equally do term time, which is now what we're seeing on the job board.
Term time.
Which is you're working only during the term. So not working during the holidays.
Oh, term time.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Non-parent learning.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't been to school 14 years. So,
Yeah, well, so like term time. So like basically you're not working,
Oh, yeah.
which makes sense, right? Cause,
Yeah, because kids need to be looked after.
yeah, term time is a thing on our platform. We also have flexi start times and end times. So like if you can't be fully flexible, you can't do remote. We've got remote as well. We've got school hours. But if you can't do those, you can do something that is really easy where you can do flexi start and end times. So 3 o'clock comes around. You're not like, oh, I need to pick up my kid. Let me just sneak out. I'm going to go and pick up my daughter from daycare or school. I will continue the rest of my work in my own time in the evening.
Isn't that bizarre that that's like a thing? I can sense it in your tonality, like the stories you've heard.
Oh, I've heard a lot.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot. I'm like, but it's more common, but it's still not there. Like I've had companies, no joke, tell me that they would never hire a mum. And I'm like, can I unpack the unconscious bias? Or just real, like, not unconscious bias. The bias, it's not unconscious. You just told me.
I hear those stories so much from like recruiters and HR. So they tell the recruiter, so then the recruiter has to do it, but still tick the human whatever thing. There's a law you have to follow, human rights something, where you can't hire someone based on like, age and race.
Oh, yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, but they do it. They just tell the recruiter, and then the recruiter goes and does it.
It's terrible. That's really shocking. I've had someone say to me, I won't hire parents and caregivers because, well, they said mums. Let's be honest. They said mums because mums get sick. Mums' kids get sick. And I'm like, well, what about the dad's kids? Takes two to tango.
Oh, so they'll hire dads but not mums.
Yes. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like 2023.
Yeah, no.
But that's what I've been told, and more than once.
Oh, no, I imagine, yeah. Well, it doesn't make sense to me. It's like, they're almost, because society's like that, they're almost better to hire mums purely for the fact that a mum would appreciate that. Imagine if your culture's shit and your job sucks, but at least you're like, hey, you can go pick up your kids.
Yeah.
You work
if
whatever.
That's all you got. You will, like, and it's also a talent magnet, like it is, quote unquote, winning the war on talent. Because, like I said, if you don't offer part-time employment, that's missing out 20% of the market. But it's actually a bigger percentage of the pie, because how many people would want to work school hours if they were given the chance? Like, it would be a lot of people.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be mums. It could be dads. It could be no parent. You could be anybody. You want to have a life outside of work, and you're happy to compromise on those 8 hours that you miss out on, so you'll do school hours easy. But the companies that offer that, they don't get 30 applicants, they get over 150 applicants to choose from.
Yeah, that's mad, eh? Because when I wrote down the goal of how to help people live fulfilling lives, I was either going to go parents or create an environment. I went parents because a lot of your identity is formed at the age of 0 to 3. But it's quite tricky to, hey, this is how you should parent, even though I've never parented. But then creating an environment where people want to work. But it's like, you think about the net gain for society if parents are less financially stressed and emotionally stressed.
Oh, there's huge. There's not. It's a win for the employer, because guess what? If you're more diverse, you are more profitable.
Yeah,
okay. You are more profitable. Like, look at all the data. It's saying that diverse companies perform better in terms of diversity, not just, I'm talking about true diversity, right? Where I told you about being truly authentic. I mean, being yourself at work and it being okay.
How do you measure that? How do you say, this level of authenticity in this company led to this output of profit? That doesn't quite add up. You know what I mean?
Well, they do a lot of, like, we haven't done any studies, but like if you look at McKinsey study, they've done a Deloitte study, they've done them across the board, and I'm talking big consulting companies that have measured.
Yeah, you got the cred, but what was the study? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's the McKinsey.
You can get the name wrong, but like, what were they studying? You know,
so they were studying the actual profitability of the business and the diversity of the business. So how many people, what type of diversity do you have? So you can still measure diversity.
Oh yeah.
Like
color or mental mind maps. Or
everything. You can
gender.
You can measure your diversity. That's why you know that that women are historically underrepresented in trades and construction and tech. Because we can tell. Like, I've got lots of friends that work in tech.
Okay.
And they're predominantly male skewed, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not a hard thing to measure. Diversity is not a hard thing to measure. True diversity around being authentically yourself at work, would probably come more from the employees rather than from the employer.
Yeah, got you. So you're saying you see diversity as authenticity?
Yes, I do.
Way.
Yeah.
And then, but the studies are like when you have different types of people, it seems to do well.
Yes, it's exactly that.
Okay.
And there's not one study, like I said, like there's so many studies out there. But overall, the consensus that diversity is good for business. Yeah. So that's your businesses. If you're listening, that's important because it's actually going to drive innovation, creativity. It's also going to make happier, healthier employees, because if you can be authentically yourself at work, and if you can be you can pick up your kids, drop off your kids, you can still be able to balance your life, you're going to be happier because your needs and your priorities have been considered, and it's not just about the business, it's this win-win. Do you know what I mean? It's logical. If you're happier, you're going to be more productive.
Yeah.
More engaged. So yeah, but for business case study is a really easy one. Like I said, for the economy, it is part of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So it is no longer a New Zealand, we're a New Zealand movement, but it is anchored in a wider sustainability, outreach driven by the UN around family-friendly employment for gender equity, poverty reducing, making people happier, and the lifelong benefits are great because, maybe when I was growing up as a kid, I would have had both parents around, and maybe that would have changed things. I don't know. Now, I don't know.
You're off there. Let's come back for a minute. Because I think that's an easier thing to get behind, because the diversity thing, you get triggered and, you're this white privileged male and, anything you achieve is invalidated and you should feel guilty. That's not an easy thing to sell. But in terms of being like, hey, mums don't have time to look after their kids, let's create a space that will help that. It'll also improve the economy as well as improve the gap between wages.
Yes, and I also,
that's reasonable.
It's very reasonable, but it's also thinking about diversity. I appreciate it's hard because I know what you're saying around, I'm a white male and it's frustrating for me. But think of it this way:
I'm not frustrated. I'm just speaking to the hive.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, what I'm thinking, what we need to remember, and I think it's really important for everybody to remember, is not everyone starts from the same starting line.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we try and educate the market, because we get a lot of people coming to us saying, why you got jobs for mums? Why aren't you working with dads? And actually, we're working with a ton of dads. So we are working with dads. We're working with non-parents. We're working with everybody. We call it jobs for mums because it's trying to make an impact, right, around the motherhood penalty. And it's also the concept that we're not all starting from the same starting line. And it's true that, Pacific and Māori women actually have a bigger gap in terms of gender pay gap that can't be directly attributed to something. So it's, not everyone starts from the same starting line. So even myself, I'm a white, yes, I'm an Albanian refugee, kind of slightly different demographic, but...
you have no opinion now.
What's that?
You're too white to have an opinion.
Well, I come from my own, no one would know.
Yeah.
You can't, But the point being is that even myself, I've had my own privileges in life and in my career, and so recognizing that is important to driving equity, not equality, because equality is really important to get to, but to drive, to go to equality, we need to really also think about improving equity for everybody.
Yeah, so I
You're like, what?
No, not at all. I can see the whole intergenerational trauma, person treated this way, then it carries on, and then you, even just from an asset standpoint, you're way behind.
Yeah.
My concern is around the mindset. So it's like they did that whole blue eye, brown eye experiment. Have you heard that one?
No, I'm interested.
So the teacher went up to these kids, bit of a fucked up experiment in the 60s. And it's like, if you get blue eyes, you're dumb. And told them they're all dumb, you're not going to achieve anything. And then they switched it, and with the brown eyes, and they both performed significantly worse because of the expectation. Yeah. Or they told teachers, hey, this student's smarter than they are.
Yeah.
And then that student actually did better.
Yeah.
So my concern is like, okay, there's clear advantages for some and clear disadvantages for others. And if I keep, let's say I go up to little Rangi, I'm like, hey Rangi, you know, your life is going to be way harder. You know, this is you're impoverished because of this. This is going to hold you back. And then it contributes to a narrative that doesn't support Rangi.
Yeah.
So that's my concern, is like, actually, how do you be supportive of fellow man?
Yeah, I understand that. I think you're absolutely right. I think for us, it's education. It's like we try and say we're called this because this is why. And then when you actually understand the reason, you're like, but it hasn't stopped a lot of men from applying to our positions, which is great, which is what we want, which is phenomenal for us. But what we know is that if we're calling a Jobs for Mums, the women that have lost confidence are then able to apply, because that's the biggest feedback that we get, is that I feel confident applying for a role because it's got my name on it. And there's studies that show that.
Yeah, you can target women, it's fine.
You know, but I'm just saying the reason, like the name is really interesting, and I get what you're saying, but I think if we've got it, as long as we're clear around the fact that it's family-friendly benefits for both parents, and like for us, like in my household, we're a 50-50 household. Like both of us work full-time, both of us are dedicated to our career, both of us parent and share the load. And so with Jobs for Mums, we're really careful to make it a positive narrative for both.
Yeah.
It's more just to make sure that we're recognizing that not everybody starts from the same starting point. And then our movement is around family-friendly employment, irrespective of what type of family you have. It doesn't have to be traditional nuclear family. You could, you know, you can be a variety of different demographics. You could be 2 dads, 2 mums. One, you know, we've got grandparents that are actually, or foster parents, or no parents that are in their 60s trying to find meaningful employment, that, you know.
Yeah. Why not just like ignore all the diversity thing and just focus on what you really want to help, which is yourself?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're helping what your pain was for others. Like, why do you need to go the whole...
Because I think there needs a place for it. I don't think, you know, like, I wouldn't ever turn someone away. Like...
Well, don't turn them away, but I'm just saying, like, because you started talking about diversity and how that improves profits and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But you want to help parents because it's hard to be a parent and have a job, and then you're, 10 years behind everyone else.
I agree. Look, I do want to help parents, but I don't want to not, like, if I have the opportunity to help somebody.
Oh, you can help grandparents and whatnot, but like, why the race thing? Why does that matter?
Oh, the race.
Keep talking. I'm just put this button runs out randomly.
The race, you mean like to different, because we know that to drive true equality, we need to be diverse across the platform.
Yeah, but you like pick your problem though, don't you? It's just like, I'm really good at solving this problem because I understand it intimately. Yeah. If you try and solve, well, because you're using the diversity thing. Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like, you give people advice on how to have more, different types of races inside your organization and the right amount of genders and whatnot.
We don't give advice at all. What we say to businesses is you look internally and you kind of figure out where you want to get to as an organization to drive more impact from that lens. So it's not me telling you what you need to do. It's me telling you that you can start small and work your way towards a really amazing organization, but you have to start being more inclusive, because that's the way to solve a lot of like I said, it's good for business, it's good for families, so it is an important topic, but it's definitely not me telling people how to do it. It's more, look internally and use family-friendly employment as a way. And you don't have to be, if you're a big company, you can start with policies. That's great. You've got flexible working policies, parental leave policies, gender neutral policies, phenomenal. But if you're a small business and you can't afford that, then you just start with looking internally in your team, saying, how can we support you to be more authentically yourself? Challenging those unconscious bias around someone who may have a career gap, or who might be in their 60s wanting to contribute. It's those little things that make a massive difference, because it's a big elephant to eat at once.
Yeah, so let me give you an example, because I think it turned a bit combative.
Yeah.
So I was talking to a guy today, he's got bipolar and, you know, in financial situation, he goes to the food bank.
Yeah.
I don't know how we ended up chatting, but I seem to find those sort of people going through shit. And he goes to the food bank, and the food bank's running out of food, and they don't have enough food for everyone, so you have to schedule and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
I'm really good at solving the, hey, making someone feel comfortable, ask questions to help them realize what's holding them back in life.
Yeah.
That's what, if I go the whole like, let's fund this food thing as well, I'm doing a disservice to the thing I'm good at and the impact I can have. That's what I'm saying about diversity. It's like you're really good at understanding the plight of a parent.
Yeah.
And you care about and supporting everyone else.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you're serving the people you're really good at serving less.
Yes, I see what you're saying. But we just don't, I guess we don't have a...
But cancels out everything before.
No, I get what you're saying. I really appreciate what you're saying. And look, it makes...
You don't have to get it. You can
No,
be like,
I do.
Bullshit.
We're called Jobsome Mums as well it is a really focused niche, right? In terms of what it's called.
Yeah.
But we're not going to say to somebody, you can't use the platform because you're not a mum. That wouldn't be the right thing to do, you know? It's around, we work with a lot of mums, don't get me wrong, but we also work with dads. We also work with those that have been disadvantaged in other ways, those with disabilities. And there's like, yes, we might be better if we narrow and focus, but that wouldn't be the right thing to do from a social impact perspective, social enterprise perspective, because we'll focus on parents and we'll talk a lot of parent and caregivers and their needs, but anyone can use the platform, because ultimately the goal for us is to find everybody work that works for them.
Yeah. No, I get that. It wasn't your business. It was more like...
As an organization.
No, it was more like it sounded like you're going on boards of diversity inclusion and trying to encourage people to have, you know, more of that, as opposed to like you just focusing on mostly helping moms but not denying people that come in.
That's fair enough to say, right?
Yeah. That's
really fair enough to say. And I wish I could say that I'm on boards trying to help people improve the diversity.
Yeah.
I guess my impact is when people come to us.
Okay. So you're not doing it. I thought you were.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. And like...
So yeah, you're helping mums but not saying no to people that come in.
Definitely not.
Well, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying, hey, diversity, you know, I'm going to go talk to this large corporate and say, hey, you need this amount of quota of people. No. That's the sort of...
But we do talk to large corporates. And those corporates tend to be really forward-thinking and have also the budget to be able to drive some great policies. And so we are a good platform for them to drive those diversity. Like, for example, if you're in the construction trade and you want to drive more women in that sector, we're a great platform to drive your funnel for more women to get into the sector and to mitigate the transitional workforce barriers.
Oh, okay, so it's a useful way to sell it in a way.
No.
Like, isn't it though?
Well, it is and it isn't.
It's like, hey, we've got the large corporate, you need to reach this quota of women so you can be an ESG fund.
No, well, I mean, I know what you're saying, but we're not like that. We're not like, if they wanted that, they could just go to Seek and pick out people that are women, right?
Yeah.
Why would they need us to do that? It's not that sort of thing. It's actually looking at the wider picture around, you know, improving confidence, looking at those unconscious biases.
A lot of harassment in that industry, I heard. Is that why women leave? No,
well, look, my experience of the industry is actually a phenomenal experience of the industry.
Okay.
In the sense that it's been by far the most forward-thinking industry we've worked with.
Construction?
Yeah.
Forward-thinking?
Yes, it is. In terms of like,
okay.
you think about all the other sectors that are currently underrepresented, I can tell you now that sector is by far most supportive.
Oh, okay. So part of that crew.
No,
like the tech and the blah, blah, blah crew.
Yeah, part of all the sectors that we've worked with. We've worked with a lot. Like,
okay.
We work across 36 different sectors.
And they're the best.
They're the best because they've got great policies. Not all companies, but the ones that we work with, like phenomenal policies to drive very openly amazing organizations that we, like, I won't give out names for privacy reasons, but just really, really, really forward thinking and really understanding that there is a gap and actually working with so many different industries and bodies to try and address that gap. And that's phenomenal work. Like, what a cool sector. I mean, I've just been so impressed. And I, back in the day, worked for Marley. Have you heard of Marley?
Marley, no.
Yeah, the plumbing.
Okay. You worked in a plumbing gig.
Yeah, I did. And I thought it was the coolest sector to work in.
I know.
Because everyone's so down to earth sector, really wonderful people, really inclusive policies. Just, yeah, by far, it's been my favorite sector.
Interesting. Yeah, most of my life has been labouring. And then I was like, oh, my body's fucked, so I'm going to start using my brain. Not that people that do that don't use their brain. But
Oh, there's a lot of smart people in that sector.
oh, massively. Like, I have a client that's he installs like fire systems. And I was trying to explain something to him, and he wasn't getting it. I was like, what's going on? And he just learns visually. And I was like, can you explain to me how the system works? He's like, oh, you do this. And he was using his hands to represent it. So I was like, I'm just talking to you in a way that makes no sense because you learn visually. And I'm like, here, look at this paper and all these words. So I just... It makes sense that you've got, you hire a mum that's, grateful for the experience, motivated for her kids, and takes time. Like, I always look at output. Like, who cares how many hours you're clocking in? It's like, and, how much output can you make in a certain period of time is a bit of an art too if you got less time. But
yeah, look, I mean, there's just a lot of transferable skills for parents that you as a business can utilize really effectively. And I think it's important to start thinking about having these reduced hour roles for both parents in the industry, and rewarding and looking at your hiring strategies around and promotion strategies. Are you being fair in that? Because like I said, it's this huge untapped workforce out there. It's New Zealand's largest hidden workforce, and that is highly skilled. We've got 70% that have 10 years plus experience, 73 have a tertiary degree or higher. So it's a highly skilled workforce.
That's mad, eh?
That is not being tapped into. But why? Why not? What are those biases? And it's this perception that, part-time work is... There's actually like 6 different myths.
Go on,
Do you want to go into?
Well, of course. We've done 56 minutes. I don't know what your time constraint. I got time.
Okay. Well, look, one of the myths is around that you're not motivated because you're working part-time, or... That's not true. Everyone I've spoken to is incredibly motivated, and they take the career seriously. They just can't do those hours, myself included. Like, I'm motivated. Just because I'm not working this traditional hours doesn't make me not motivated. The other one is around that it's not fair. Like, I can't give so-and-so part-time hours. It's not fair, and the rest of the team. It's like, what part of that isn't fair? Because often when you're working part-time, you're also getting part pay, One is around how do you make it work for the customer? And you're like, well, customers are people too. As long as that one day that if you're working 4 days a week, that one day they have someone else to contact when they need you, then that shouldn't be an issue. And it's not for every sector in the whole wide world, but for a lot, big majority. Another one is that you can't do senior roles or management roles in part-time hours.
That's stupid one. Yeah.
I think that is stupid because, like, board members, like, what are you doing? Like, you're not working full-time often, and look at the impact that you have. Also, your role as a leader is to bring out the best in your people. That's your role.
Yeah.
That's what you should be doing, right? If you're in leadership. And so...
Just micromanage them. Like, you micromanage them, and then, put it this way. If you're a leader that you empowered people to make their own decisions, your involvement's not much. You do that part-time all day of the week.
Yeah, if you can bring out... Exactly. That's... Yeah.
You don't lead much, in my opinion. You just, their shit's fucked, and you're like, oh, what do you think we should do? And they're like this. Yeah, okay, do that. And they're off again.
Well, the point being is that you could be really target if you're in leadership. And it's also great for small businesses. Like, you can't afford maybe to hire someone full-time at that level. And so what do? You part-time or reduced hours is a great solution because you get a really great hidden workforce, highly skilled, but in reduced hours. And does that matter for you? No, as long as you can get the expertise, and then does it matter, you know? So that's another one. And then it's, I don't know how many I mentioned, but I think the other one is around that part-time work is actually not often given. Like, it's actually not something that you're offered, it's often something you negotiate, which is crazy, right? Because like, so many times we've spoken to recruitment companies or internally with HR professionals and trying to understand what are these barriers, and one of which is that you'll only advertise full time and you will make it part time for the right person, or it's this perception that it's earned because you've proven yourself and now you can. But often the output doesn't change, and it's like part time, but it's actually power time in terms of you know. And that's another thing to be mindful of, is that if you're working reduced hours, are you managing the right expectations? It's just being a good ethical business in that sense.
Being a human being.
And being a human being.
I had those biases coming in. So I was like, in part, like, so I got a guy working, and when he's studying too, so he's part-time. But then he was full-time for a period of time. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. We can do so much. And then he's back to part-time, and I'm like, oh, well, I want to hire someone full-time. And then also, then I was thinking when you're talking, I was like, well, if I just want to hire good people, so if they come in and it's a full-time role and they say part-time, then yeah, it is a negotiation piece.
And the way you do that is to kind of look at what is really important for you, like with your friend or your colleague, figuring out what output do you really want. And then anything that doesn't quite fit into that really important scope for you, you can outsource or delegate or give it to a junior or an intern. You know what I mean? Because you can still make it work. And so,
what can work for me, the thing, the unfair thing that I would do is, well, I don't really advertise. I just see people I'm like, you're really cool. Hey, I'd love for you to work with me, you know. But I'm thinking, like, could you almost not have full-time or part-time on there? And you're like, I don't care, you know, I don't care if you're a mum looking to have limited hours or you want to work full-time. I just want to work with great people.
Yeah.
It's like...
Absolutely. It's about job architecture, right? It's like job by design. It's like I
wouldn't get like I wouldn't say, hey, I just want a part-time, because, hey, I want this problem solved.
Yeah, so that's people get really hung up on titles and on hours and on job responsibilities. But if you could take a different approach, you'd actually, you can solve that problem in a much more innovative way. For example, rather than like saying to someone you're working part-time or full-time or whatever, what you can do instead is look at what that person wants to do with their time. What are their skill set? It doesn't matter if they're in, they're in one industry and they want to get into another, because you know what I mean? Like, make it skills-led and interest-led rather than making it, this is what my job is. I mean, it doesn't work all the time because businesses do have needs and times. But if you have that flexibility as an employer at the time, and you've got wonderful people already working for you, don't be hung up on the rollers and what tasks, look at what they're good at, look at what they're interested in, and adjust the role to match those, rather than it being like so rigid.
Yeah.
And that's one way for a small business to get more, to get more productivity from people, but to actually be more inclusive as well, because that person that then has more opportunities to work on the things that they're passionate about.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I might be a bit naive, but I don't believe that whole holiday pay, like someone coming in and like begging you, like, hey, please sir, can I have some of the allotted 2 weeks? I'm always just like, take it. And then the other question is, what do you actually enjoy doing? Are you still enjoying what you're doing? Is there something else we can do? Because, especially as a small business, you can just cop it as well. You just do it until you can afford to hire someone else that can do the thing you don't want to do. Because I believe that as a business owner, people burn out because they're doing too much of the things they don't enjoy.
I think you're right. And small businesses are particularly, it's a challenging market. Like, we're only 14 months old. And so I completely appreciate what you're saying around it is really hard to wear all the hats. I've been...
Yeah, but you picked it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you're
you
in the
did.
boat. You can't complain about it or get a job. Like,
No, totally. You're totally
well, you
right.
can complain if you need to be consoled, you know?
I think it's to recognize that burnout is a thing for people. And if before you get to it, make hiring decisions in terms of being able to, because another thing that business owners struggle with, and myself included, is delegation.
Yeah, trusting them, eh?
Yeah, it's like, oh, but I can do this so much better, and I'm
Yeah.
so particular.
You
But
can't, though.
exactly. You just have to go. And also don't worry about being perfect. That was my other problem. You know, and you're like perfecting the brand, perfecting
Yeah.
the concepts, the missions, and actually, no, you can't do that, you know? Trust your people.
Yeah, it's an art. I see that ceiling, and we'll wrap this up. The ceiling of either not trusting others to delegate, not charging enough because you don't feel like you're worth it. There's another one I can't remember. But anyways, I like to dramatically end. So if you like to have a closing remark, or we just end now, and then you survived the podcast.
Oh, well, look, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't come prepared. There's no notes. But I'm glad to have a yarn with you, and yeah, very cool. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for coming on. I learned a lot about